Not a true entrepreneur or business owner if you don't have imposter syndrome.
Because they had ambition and they knew that whatever that part was, they failed. Anthony and I are going to interview each other. That way you guys, the audience, can know a little bit more about us and some of the stuff throughout our journey. So I'll start off by asking Anthony a few questions, and then Anthony will take over and ask me some questions as well. So Anthony, what does business growth mean to you, and how do you ensure sustainability over time?
That's a good question. Growth, generally speaking, has to be somewhat organic in the beginning. I think that in the early onset of building a business, that you have to recognize the steps that come organically, like, hey, at what point do I have to make my next key hire? In the beginning of that, we have to assure that that person is going to meet our expectations. But as we said before in some of our other pods, there's a margin of loss, margin of error that you have to be accepted of. And I think that in order to ensure that you have positive growth, you have to understand that there's going to be a systematic amount of losses, and the process is the most important thing. As soon as you tune into exactly what your process entails, and you're able to articulate that and maybe put that in a form where it is easily digestible for the remainder or the people that come in after you, I think that's the most important thing in growth. And with that being said, you have to understand that there's going to be a higher risk versus reward during this time, and if it's not exactly for the faint of heart, right?
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a time where you're going to face some real tough obstacles. One being that the more people that you have, the more issues that you have, and the harder the conversations become. But in order to foster a positive growth environment, you have to be ready.
Yeah.
You really do.
Awesome. So what about failures? Can you share a failure that taught you a valuable lesson, and how it basically changed your perspective or your strategy on what you were doing?
So actually, Dan, can I ask you a question?
You can ask me a question.
So, one of the things that in an adversity that I had to overcome was hiring the people, and how do you speak to those people, and how do you get people to follow you as a leader? I know that you faced a ton of adversity during your 25 years plus in business. You have told me off camera several times some of the things. So in facing adversity, how has that shaped you as a business leader, and do you believe it's necessary for growth?
Oh, absolutely. So I remember when I first started in business, I thought it was going to be a song and a dance. It was going to be easy. I had a job before. It was easy to just show up and get a check. And then you go through all the different challenges and all the different mental toughness games that you have to play. And you got to lose a lot of money before you make a lot of money. You got to hire a lot of people, fire a lot of people. And you just don't really know how to inspect things that are going to come down your pipeline. And then as you start to fail and you go through these challenges, you have one opportunity to quit, or you have one opportunity to grow. So what I tell everyone is that your job is to grow through every challenge and go through every challenge. That way you can learn something. Because every bad thing in your life, and every challenge and every adversity and every failure has something to teach us. Whether we weren't prepared, whether we did things wrong, whether we were looking the wrong way, whether we weren't focused on the right things, whatever it is, there's always an opportunity to get better at something if you're willing to learn through those challenges. So I take everything that I do and I look at how can I focus on what's not working versus what is working. Why did this happen to me? Why didn't this happen to me? And I just try to readjust myself. I think too many people get involved in business and they just want to get rich. Just make money, be my own boss, do what I want, make my own schedule. It's not that simple. You know better than anyone, that your first 5 years of business, you are an absolute slave to your nature. You're doing everything, you're working 100 plus 10 hours a week, and A lot of people aren't groomed for a 40-hour work week, never mind a 110-hour work week. So people just don't know how to deal with things. But what happens is it's a lot easier to quit. And people have this whole mentality like, oh, I'm going to try to do something. I'm going to try to have my own business. I'm going to try this. And I always tell people, the minute you say you're going to try it, don't even do it. If you're only going to try it, what's the point? If you're going to do it, no matter what obstacle comes your way, that's where success and growth happens.
I think you said it perfectly, but there was another quote from an old CEO that I used to work for, and he said, trying is not a course of action.
Yeah.
And it stuck with me forever. But the other thing that you said, the thing that I realize about you is that, and others that are extremely successful, is the simple fact that they don't let those events tear them down. They take the silver lining. They say, okay, this thing could be the end of me. Where some people say, you know what, it's over, I can't do this anymore, I'll never recover. You and other successful people have said, well, what have I learned from this little piece that I can improve on the next time I do this again?
Yeah, don't get me wrong, listen, it sucks, but what happens is you have to work on your recovery time. If you're a person who's getting beat up in business all the time, and you're getting upset, you're staying upset, you're stopping your production, and you're focusing on what's not happening versus what you can't make happen. I tell everyone, listen, yesterday was over last night. You can't change it, there's nothing you can do about it. Some days not a day in a week. If you want to change now. You cannot change what already has been done. But what you can change is what you're about to do.
So would you say that failure is a blessing in disguise?
Absolutely. Failure is inevitable, and failure is something that you need for success, and you should ultimately focus. People go, oh, you can be successful, you don't need massive failure. It's bullshit, because if you want to stay regular, like small business and whatever, not grow, basically that's like a glorified employee, yeah, don't worry about failure. But if you want to maximize your potential, do what you're made to do, what you were born to do, you're going to fail. You're going to fall on your face. I was in the bodybuilding world, back in the day. And, I'd go on stage and I would not make it, And then I'd watch all these guys throughout the years. They'd go on stage, they'd train hard, they wouldn't make it. But they didn't give up. But some did. But then the ones who didn't give up, I had an injury, unfortunately. That's why I stopped doing it. But, the ones who didn't give up, they went on to become the Mr. Olympia, winning the Arnold Classics, all the big stuff, because they had ambition. And they knew that whatever that part was they failed, whether it was their shoulder, their leg, whatever, they focused on their failure to make them better.
So if you don't fear failure, would you say you fear anything at all?
I fear death, right? So the reason why I fear death is because I don't want to die and not accomplish everything I was made to accomplish. I don't want my kids to be like, hey, he didn't do everything he was meant to do. He didn't give it his all. So I fear not being able to give 110% every day and being here for my life purpose. What I like to do is I want to show up to heaven one day and God be like, man, you really blew my expectation. You really went on and beyond, right? You are an animal. Because at the end of the day, we set ourselves a limit, like this is what we're good for, this is all we're going to do, and people become content. But the only thing that matters is from the day you are born to the day you die, that dash in between, everything that you are able to do, you need to do it because you don't know when your last day is. So I do fear death, that I'm not going to accomplish every bit of greatness that I was put on this earth for. So with you, I was saying before, what has failure taught you? What kind of lessons have you learned? And how has it changed your perspective or your strategy in things that you do?
Yeah, I wouldn't really call it necessarily a failure, but one thing that sticks out to me is my previous partnership, my business partnership. I think that it's inherently important to choose the right person that you get into business with. And that boils down to the clients that you work with all the way up to your business partner, right? Maybe you have a 50-50 split. I think that, I know through experience that person, it's a marriage. It legitimately is a marriage, and you're stuck with that person forever. And if you can't sleep in the same bed with them for the rest of your life, then you're probably not making the right decision by being a business partner with them. The other thing that could have accelerated, not so much of a failure, I guess a failure in the term of a missed opportunity, was not understanding the numbers immediately as a business owner. I think that stepping back into the growth conversation, if you don't know where you are, then you have no idea where you're going to be, or how to get there, right? So partnership, it cost me a lot. So I guess that's a failure in its own way, monetarily.
I had a partnership once and it was terrible, but we're in a partnership here. But what I like about what we do here, number one, I won't get in bed with you. Number two,
you're not my type.
My bed's not big enough. What I can tell you is that what we've done from the beginning is we focus on what you're good at. We focus on what I'm good at. You tell me something. I don't tell you how to do what you're good at. You don't tell me how to do what I'm good at. I said, hey, listen, Aunt, can you do this? Because I knew that you'd be able to communicate it better than me. To whoever we needed to talk to, you did it. And then I deal with some of the stuff on the back end. So being in a partnership, you have to make sure that, everyone has an ideal role if you are going to be a partner. But at the same time, sometimes I'm going to do more than you. Sometimes you're going to do more than me. We have to be okay with that. But at the end of the day, there's balance. And we know we have a common goal, a common purpose, and we communicate and we know what we're supposed to do. So that's important.
Right. I agree. You have two people with a common goal. I mean, it's just like the mastermind conversation, right? That's how we met, the mastermind, which I was invited to, and I had no idea why I was there. And, you made it clear why I was there. So, okay, that makes sense. But sometimes you have to be told. But, just like that, everyone brings their own unique skill set and talent to the table, and everyone works collectively.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's a fear that you have now? Like looking at where you want to be, your company continues to grow, you're going into multiple states, you're doing a bunch of stuff. What's a fear that you have now that going into the future you anticipate you're going to run into?
Yeah, good question. I think about this daily. Imposter syndrome is a real thing, right? And I think that you're not a true entrepreneur or business owner if you don't have imposter syndrome. If you think that everything is, how to tackle every single situation, then you're almost full of yourself. I think it is humbling in a way to say, what if I get discovered, right? And that's the imposter syndrome by definition is like, what if they find out I'm not who I am, or I say, or who I'm supposed to be? And I think that that's one of my biggest fears. Like maybe this thing gets so big and it just goes way over my head. But in reality, having conversations with multiple people, you realize that simply is not the case. It's just an irrational fear that you have. So that would be my biggest fear, and I think it is an irrational fear. Besides the fact that everyone faces the same exact fear of, hey, what happens if I lose everything overnight, right? And the reality is, people like us, people that we interview, they just get up and do something else, and they brush their shoulders off and they say, all right, what's next?
Yeah, exactly. Look at us here with Intrepidus. We're filming one at a time, the first couple, and it was like so hard. Looking at our schedules. Now we're just like, you know what? We're gonna lock and load. One day a month, 4 a day. We're gonna spend 8 hours a day together. And it's Monday, and it's the hardest day of the week for everyone because that's when everything starts back up. But we said, listen, we're committed. We're doing what we got to do, no matter what's going on the outside. And I'm not even answering phone calls, when I'm doing podcasts. And I just know that the problem isn't that big, and you have to realize that. In the beginning, when we were working, it's like, I can only do one day. I got a phone call. I got to do this, and we couldn't schedule ourselves out because we made the problem bigger than the goal. And the goal here is so much bigger than the problem, and the problem can wait, and it's nothing that can't be solved.
If we had to do this 2 years ago, I would say it's an impossibility. Like, I could not leave that captain's chair. Now, blessed I am to have the team that I have that could disappear for 2-3 weeks, a month if I wanted to. And the place isn't going to burn down, but it's a process. It's part of that growth, right? And I think that's us as business owners, as we develop and we start to learn that things aren't going to burn overnight, right? They're not going to just shut down. You're not going to lose everything in a matter of days. We just had an interview not too long ago that, that was a fear, that business was going to disappear if they disappear. When in reality, if you plan correctly for growth, then that's not a possibility.
Yeah, it's the biggest problem in business is people ultimately think that they are the business. They don't build the business, create the culture, create the system. And if you are everything that identifies as the business, it will burn down. But if you want to grow and scale to a certain place like where you are right now and where you continue to go, you put the right people in place, and that's how your business grows, because you find the good people who are the good outlets for all those different things that you need, and it allows you to free some of your time. And the biggest reason why most people can't grow a business is because they feel like I have to do everything. You know, it's like a super mom. A mom has to come home. She's got to clean the kitchen, clean the house, do the dishes, make dinner, do laundry. All like their obsessive compulsive behavior is so crazy. And I got no time for myself. Oh shit, you don't have no time for yourself. Like you literally do this because you have this whole crazy feeling in the back of your head. If you don't do it, no one's going to do it.
Right.
You know, and then you set that precedent for your family, for your kids, and if you're married, your husband or whatever, that like, oh, I don't have to grab the laundry basket, she's going to grab it. Oh, I can leave the clothes on the floor, she's going to put them away. And you've created this whole chaos in your life, you know. And I relate it best to women because that's how moms, they feel like they're nurturing. Right. This is why a lot of moms stress out, have anxiety attacks, and go through this stuff because they feel like I'm the only one who can do that. And business ownership's the same way.
Seems like
you know.
Seems like way. Well, I'm glad we got to chat. I think we're gonna take a 1 week hiatus and take some time off for Christmas, spend time with the kids, the family.
Yeah.
Anything planned?
Nope. Just family, and you know, come over. We usually do Christmas Eve, but I don't really do much. I'm not a huge holiday guy. On my time off, I like to just relax. I don't like to spend time with a bunch of people because I'm always doing stuff. When we do have the ability with my family, we like to go on vacation when we can. You know, every Easter we go away. Every Thanksgiving we go away. So Christmas, I just kind of like, while everything's mellowing down in the world, people are settling down, taking time off. I like to just relax. I'll probably be working, you know, doing something, because I always am. But I just like to kind of like shut the world off and get some things done that I need to get done. And I'm just not a big guy to like be sitting there and, you know, entertaining everybody, because I never get that time alone. Right. So I kind of use like this Christmas season to be my time alone.
Good. I hope you spend that time the way you want to. And you know what? I thought of a great Christmas gift from our listeners. If they could share us on YouTube and Spotify.
Yeah, you can do that. You can also like our page if you're not doing it, and just throw some comments in there. So we appreciate all you guys. We have great stuff coming up, a huge lineup of podcasts that we just filmed that you're going to see in the new year, and we'll see all you guys soon.
See you soon. See you in the new year.